the Democratic presidential nominee, Kamala Harris, and the Republican candidate, Donald Trump, are set to go head-to-head in a debate this coming Tuesday night. And here to look ahead to the event is Theron Bond, a Democrat strategist, and Rina Shah, a Republican strategist. Theron and Rina, good evening to you both.
Good
Hi
evening, and
there.
thank you for having me.
Great to have you both here with us tonight. Theron, I'll come to you first, if I can, to get the Democratic angle. What will Kamala Harris want to get out of this debate, and what will she be trying to avoid?
I think she wants to grow in the polls and widen the gap between her and former President Donald Trump. Right now, the election is just too close to call, and every day that goes by, the election gets closer and closer, and the gap doesn't get any wider. And so that should be her goal. Her goal should also be to explain some of her previous policy stances, and also if they've changed or not, and if so, why, and what she wants to do going forward. I think if she's going to avoid anything, the same way that she highlights her prosecutorial record, it could very well work against her. And what she was hoping for is for former President Donald Trump's mic to be unmuted, and that to work in her favor because he can be so off the cuff and abrasive. But we've seen the rules and we know that that's not going to happen. Does that mean he won't talk over her? Absolutely not. It can likely happen. But I think that's what she's hoping for. She's hoping to be the more mild, neutral, stick to her policies. This is what she's for. She's for common decency. And she's hoping that he just goes completely off the hinges.
Rina, what about you? What do you think Donald Trump will be looking to avoid? I mean, Theron there says, being abrasive, and it's very difficult, isn't it, to stop Donald Trump being abrasive?
Well, if there's one thing we've learned in almost a decade now of seeing Donald Trump be not just in public life and in the public eye here in these United States, but really try to show that he is a capable commander in chief type, it's that he will be who he wants to be. And his personality is not only this sort of very all important piece of everything he does. The style in which he does it has always been important. But I think this week in particular, what we're looking at is Trump really trying to pin Kamala Harris to what I think is a board of impossibility.
Mm.
He wants to make her seem incapable, not leader like, when he himself has had many a misstep just in the past 4 to 6 weeks. We could have never guessed that after that attempt on his life, what looked like a really great Republican National Convention in July, that there would be such a milquetoast, lukewarm response to his vice presidential pick. On the other side, what we've seen is this wind is at the back of the Harris-Walz campaign, and I think Trump recognizes that.
Mm.
So this week is more important to him than ever before because he spent months riding this really high tide, and he knows he's not going to be able to really get her on policy, though he's going to try on economy, immigration,
Yeah.
crime, public safety, but he's really going to try to paint the picture of her being incapable of leading this country.
Theron, who are they after? Who still hasn't decided who they're going to vote for in this presidential race?
A significant amount of Democrats, to be honest, but largely independent voters, and a lot of younger voters, younger being some millennials and some Gen Z voters. Apathy is very, very high right now. And for those who don't like the options or haven't heard enough for the options that currently exist, they go, well, I still have some time to figure it out, or I'm not sure. But if November gets here and those folks still aren't sure, then they'll unfortunately sit at home and not participate, or they will participate but will skip the presidential race on their ballot, which we honestly can't afford for anyone to do. But independent voters, if both candidates were smart enough to strategically try to engage them, that would be the person who would easily get ahead in the polls and likely win come this November.
Rina, Theron mentioned before about the muted mics rule. Why is this happening?
Well, I think there's a sense here that if they're able to kind of talk over each other, this debate will just look like a mess, right? And in some sense, the Harris campaign wanted that, but then it's almost as if they took a good look at what that could lead to, and she wouldn't get her message heard over somebody who is a serial interrupter, because that's Trump. But look, going back to this last debate meetup between Trump and Biden, I think Trump is kind of also hoping that she kind of trips over her own 2 feet. He's, of course, hoping for a moment like that, because in the moment that Biden stumbled and what was a disastrous debate for Biden, Trump kind of came out looking a bit more presidential
Mm.
than he had in a long time to many a viewer. And look, the rules here are important, but what's most important is what so many Americans hear about, what they've been wondering about. Can they trust either of these candidates to give us a more prosperous next 4 years? We've come out of this pandemic. Now we're 4 years out from the COVID-19 pandemic having landed up on our shores here in these United States. And there's still a sense that we need a steady hand at the wheel. Trump was booted out in 2020 largely based on his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. So when people wonder, why is he doing so well? We Americans like to take a chance on something new every 4 to 8 years. In this case, both are trying to paint themselves
Mm.
as that something new. So the mics being off and them not interrupting each other, I think that's good for the American public.
These debates, Darren, they do, like Rena says, they do change everything. The Trump Biden debate changed the shape of who's possibly going to be the next president of the United States. They have an ability to swing the public and like you say, the people who aren't decided one way or another, Theron, don't they?
That's true. The thing about it is that in the last debate, former President Donald Trump had a leg up. And if he had continued to take that and continue to maintain his kind of resolve and calmness and somewhat presidential view that people were able to wrap around him in that moment, he would still be leading today, regardless of anything else that happened. But he just couldn't hold on to that. But what it did show us was the vulnerability and weakness in the Democratic Party, and how they put candidates up on a pedestal sometimes and hide things in order for a small particular group's benefit. And that's not overall well for the American people.
Mm.
And so, yes, it changed things significantly. The thing about this upcoming debate, besides the muted mics and them not being able to have their notes with them and only have water and a notepad, is that there's also not going to be an audience. So that energy
I
in the
see.
room that either candidate could get, they're not going to have. So it's pretty much two candidates, an
Mm.
empty room, and the questions. And so I would like to see another debate past this upcoming one,
Yeah.
where there's the full charade, the everything, all the bells and whistles, including
People
an
reacting. Yeah.
audience that can ask the questions.
Yeah, fascinating. Theron and Rena, great to speak to you both. I'm really excited to watch this on Tuesday night. It's popcorn, isn't it? With these big debates. So thanks so much for both of your times.